Yeah.
Where are the makeup packs kept?
Where are the what, sorry?
The lapel mics. Or what's his face?
Over here. Yeah. Here.
Yeah.
No, I'm paying for this.
Yeah, it's just this.
Hit it one more time. There we go. Nothing over true.
Yeah.
Okay, we're back.
All right.
We're doing this again. Good morning. This is Abe Nadimi, reporting here from the Kinetic Octagon. Is that what we call it?
Yes, that is where. No, we're not calling this the Octagon. This is one of the two towers.
This is Sharon's tower.
Yeah.
So today's just going to be Stephen and I. So Janica's out, her son's having a birthday today, and Miss Emily's learning our tech, so she can end up, or we can end up driving our video in a little bit different format than we've done in the past. So welcome to the individuals that are watching us, Mr. Greg Bowling. So this gentleman is actually my middle school coach from football. And I sucked as a football player. I just couldn't get it. Couldn't catch really well, and wasn't good to do any of the fullback position or running back.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what position were you playing?
I tried to play safety.
Okay.
I just couldn't get it at the time.
Right.
I think it would be better if I, well, A, if I was bigger, but also in a little bit later on, playing in when I was more like sophomore or junior in high school.
Oh, okay. So
That
this is
said,
super
I
early.
remember him very specifically. So thanks a lot for tuning in, Coach. Coach was always very hard on us, but very loving at the same time, and I remember him as a really positive role model. So thanks a lot, Coach. And you know what's really cool is if you ever watch his Facebook, you know, so many people from so much of his life, I guess, obviously, always chime in, all his students, and I think that's really a wonderful place. And I think coaches have, in my life, a very, very positive impact in my life.
It's definitely.
I would say working with Coach Bowling was Coach Brown. He would actually pick me up from my house to get me to practice earlier because I ended up becoming a kicker and working in that area, and he helped me a lot. So, you know, I think coaches have such an amazing impact in people's lives, and I don't know how or why, but coaches are able to extract from a person more than any other person. In my life, anyways.
Well, I was gonna say the caveat being good coaches.
Well, of course, good. I mean, yeah, because you can have shitty coaches or shitty teachers or shitty parents, whatever. But good coaches can extract more out of an individual. We have a back feed going on here.
Yeah.
We're gonna fix that right now. Give me 1 second, guys.
Yes. That should do.
That's testing. Hello. Let's
Yeah,
try it again.
yeah.
It's better
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, good coaches for sure. Because I know for me, so I got to experience two types of, actually probably three types of coaching. So the first one, my very first coach. Well, this is okay. Let me say very first team coach, because I had individual coaches for like when I used to skate, but the very first team coach I had was when I tried out for basketball in 8th grade. Now, I was terrible, and coach, let me like try out and everything, and then like a couple weeks into like practice rounds, he was like, okay, like this isn't working out. But that was the first time. So at that point, this is 8th grade. The way that he basically let me know that there was like work that needed to be improved, like, and I wasn't gonna make the team that year, was not the best. Like it was basically like, you just kind of suck, go away. So I took that as, well, then you need to be proven wrong. So that was kind of, and also, like everyone's hero is Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan got cut in 8th grade. I was like, cool, I'm on the path to greatness. I got cut in 8th grade too. I'm gonna just do the work and then get back out, and go try out for JV and varsity next year. So I did that, right? And that's basically how it worked out. But the second set of coaches that we had, so it was Jeff Lindsay and Kevin Klein. And like they're also like, not Jeff, but Kevin was also a teacher of ours. So like, we had like a daily interaction, and then there was like the coaching interaction. And, do the whole thing, like played all over summer, like, practice with friends and everything. And then, tried out and made the team. And then from that point on, like that was one of the most positive experiences we had over 3 years. And like, it was like the same group of kids, same coaches, it was drilled into us. Like we just became that unit. And then we switched coaches my senior year.
Two?
Totally brand new coach that I do not need to name. Worst coaching experience I've ever had. Because it was very obvious that for that coach, it was about him as a coach and not about us as players.
That's what ultimately came out, right? Obviously, that's probably not his intention, but
I don't,
probably.
I mean, no, it definitely wasn't his intention. What he wanted to do is he wanted to be a good coach, and for him, that was expressed through winning. But his method for understanding how to win was only around individual exploits, right? So, like, his starting lineup was the 5 best players individually, not the 5 best people working together as a team. And we had a really deep team. So, like, all of us had played together for about 3+ years. Our first string, second string, and third string were all basically the same level and had all played at the same level for a long time. There's just that many kids. you could have 15 guys on the team and all of them be relatively the same.
Right.
So then he picked like the 5 best out of that individually and made that the starting lineup, who didn't always have the best chemistry. And he was very rigid about starters being separated from second string and third string. And so it was like, that's not really using the best tool for the job. And so in that case, we lost to schools we used to run over. And we were like, well, we know how to beat this school. Like, this school only has like that one kid or like this thing. And he was like, no, but the starters have to win. And so they would be put into positions where they're clearly not working together, not firing all cylinders. And then when, the game would get bad, he'd throw in the second string, like when your second string brings your game back and like takes you from being down 20 points to being up 30 points, that's indicative of like, hey, maybe that's who should win the game.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And then he pulled them out and put the starters back in so he could prove his point that the starters were the people that were supposed to like to carry this thing through. So we just got to experience like the dichotomy of coaching.
Hey, on our cameras, can we get it set up where it's just Steven and I on camera?
No, I mean, not just that.
Okay.
Yeah, we were playing around with that before you came.
Why can't we do that?
We haven't like built that scene.
Okay, let's build that scene because these 2 or 3 conversations happen often. And it's just you and I stuck on the corner. So right now the big video feed is just 1/3 of the whole screen. So for guys watching, setting up these live things, there's a lot of different things that go into it, and it's really cool. And we're always constantly learning how we're interacting here and what it ends up looking like for you guys. And we're doing our best to constantly evolve that. So we'll try to maybe zoom in on the person who's talking a little bit more so you guys can see it better, especially if you're on the mobile phone. I think it works really well. So on Twitch, we got Ace Platinum, our boy. How are you? Thanks for interacting with us this morning and chatting with us. I think it's pretty awesome that you're on the same side of me as far as the coffee thing. So the coffee thing is interesting. So we'll actually use that to actually kind of segue into a conversation that Steven and I wanted to have together, which is around money and how to use the money that you currently have to then start something new. I think that was one of the points, because as we discussed in our wealth wheel, and there's these 10 different topics that we use or 10 different resources that you use and harness from to create your life. And so it's really important for us anyways, on our side, to not only talk about that, but also help provide some actual tactical things. So, I love to learn about strategy and the concepts inside of any particular subject, but I'm always thinking, how do I turn around and get it into a practical, activity for myself?
Yeah.
And then I love to share that with other individuals. Anyways.
Yeah.
So for me and the coffee thing,
Yes.
my idea. So Ace, I really want you to hear me here because I think I'm gonna have your support because you're a smart individual here, and will join me on this one. I was saying, look, the coffee shops that I know of, the vast majority of them, they treat coffee as this thing that you have in a quiet environment, and they always talk about, what side of the shady side of a mountain that this coffee beans are coming from, and all this kind of stuff. When for me, and I think a lot of other individuals, let me rephrase that. I think a lot of individuals look at coffee as, this is the thing that wakes me up in the morning.
Right.
And this is the thing that I used to hang around with my friends. But mostly, especially in the morning time, like this is what I need to like pick me up and get me going. And you go to coffee shops and they're all quiet and like jazz music going on in the background. And so I expressed an idea to Steven about creating a coffee shop that was more bold. So not so much talking about the origin of the coffee beans, but talking about, or the imagery and the sounds and everything would be for, waking you up and content delivery, or not content, caffeine delivery. So Steven said no.
No, I didn't say no.
He said it was a horrible idea.
I did not say it was a horrible idea. I said it was an interesting idea.
That's your way of saying it's a horrible idea.
But the fundamentals of starting that, and it's a unique idea. So the fundamentals of starting that, and with it being such a unique idea, will, from my experience in opening a few coffee shops, it will triple the amount of money needed to go into the coffee shop to keep it running until it gathers its customers.
Right.
Right. So it's not so much as a bad idea, it's just that it's unique in any unique type.
So let's talk about the money aspect, because you actually know coffee intimately.
Right.
So you've actually owned the coffee shop.
Right.
Were successful to like run it to the end of it because you were able to sell it.
Right.
Yep. So that's awesome. and then you worked in the manufacturing side of it, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
Yes? Is that?
Yes.
So what is the money aspect of owning something like a coffee shop? And what is that, how can we take that framework and apply it to different businesses that individuals look to start? And then my question would be, because sometimes individuals don't have a lot of money, because we're about to talk about some big numbers, I would imagine.
Big issue.
So how do we turn around and then be able to start off a coffee shop if somebody wants to do that in a cheaper or less financial intensive?
Right. So for standard coffee shops, in the vein of what we understand like a Starbucks to be, those minimum you need like 200 to 300K or so to put all the stuff in place: chairs, countertops, equipment, paint, plumbing, all that stuff.
Is that assuming 4 walls and that's it?
Yeah, this is
Or a
four-
bare bones building?
No, this is a four walls, pretty nice, design put into a decent chairs, like all of the things.
Oh, I know, but I'm saying 200,000 to 300,000 to open a cafe seems
Yes.
really high to me.
That's pretty standard.
Okay, so that's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
Can you share with me where the numbers? So you're walking into 4 walls
Right,
and a concrete floor,
You're walking in,
and then you have to add the grease trap. You have to.
all of that stuff.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, you're walking into blank 4 walls, and then you have to design like what's the layout going to be, how the countertops going to be set up.
Sure.
Make sure everything's up to code. Like that's all inside of that 250 to 300,000. That gets you like you can open the door, turn on the sign, say we're open, and start serving coffee, and not be sued for it.
Okay, keep on going.
So, but that is standard traditional coffee shop. Then it goes down from there. So there are coffee trucks where you can spend $50,000 to $60,000 on the truck and get it painted, and
Right.
all the equipment added to it, and then you get your license. Then you drive somewhere, you serve coffee, and then you can go down to the coffee cart, and the coffee cart may be $10,000 to $15,000, depending on the type of cart. Or in those type of settings, you can build a coffee cart over a year, right? You can just if you're working like relatively any job, you take some money, you buy some equipment, you add it to it, and you just kind of get started that way.
So I still wondering that $200,000 number seems super high. Can you tell me some of the equipment cost?
So your standard coffee making machine, like your espresso machine, it's usually
20?
No, those are the nice ones.
Oh, okay.
So it's 5 to 6K is pretty standard for just a functional like regular coffee machine.
Okay.
Then you can get really expensive ones like so the coffee shop I go to all the time, Houndstooth, they have one called the Black Eagle. And it is as automated as of a coffee machine as you can make without taking the human out of it. So a lot of the measuring and weighing and busy work that goes into prepping like specialty coffee, a lot of the machine has the capability to do some of that for you. So it'll weigh cups, it'll weigh the amount of liquid going into the cup, that kind of stuff. So all of that makes it more expensive. And most of that on a different machine will happen from the barista side. So you'll have a scale, and then like you'll weigh a bunch of things. So it adds a lot more steps to making the coffee. So the prep time is faster.
So we have let's say a $10,000 machine.
So that's your middle grade.
Right. Okay. So we have a $10,000 machine. We have to have a grinder minimum.
Yeah, grinders.
1 or 2.
Yeah, grinders usually $800 to $1,500 depending on the type of grinder.
So I'm at $1,200.
Yeah, $1,200.
And that gives me the machine, and that gives me the grinder.
Yes.
And then I need cups.
Then you also need the brewers for the regular coffee.
And those can be expensive, especially the nice industrial ones.
But let's just say that you get like a nice industrial one that will serve 2 big air pots. You're going to spend about $1,100 on that one, and then you're going to spend another $175 per air pot.
Okay, so we'll say $1,500. So I'm now at $14,000.
Yes.
Okay. So how did I get to another $186,000 between countertop, refrigerator, chairs, dishes?
That stuff. All of that stuff. Countertops, refrigerator. You have to get an industrial grade, refrigerator. You need industrial grade refrigerators.
Is that a walk-in?
No, it's not a walk-in. It's actually just a
big
under counter.
Under counters, okay.
And then the contractor. The contracting is the biggest part. Paying for the labor of someone to come in and put up drywall and
That'll pass inspection.
and that will pass inspection. It's about $2,000 to go to the city and file all your paperwork and all that stuff. That's most of it goes into the contract.
How much did you cost to open your coffee shop?
So that's where I was going to get into. So we had some interesting pieces there. So since it was partnered with the church, we actually only spent like $45,000.
Okay.
Because we built a mobile coffee shop that rolled into the front of their lobby and then melded with the rest of it. So it looked like it was all the same building,
Right.
but we really just paid for the initial coffee setup. And so, like, we had massive, like, thick, like, almost 1.5 butcher block countertops that were on top of these big casters and rollers and steel, you know, crate. Everything was self-contained. So that is the hybrid of the truck cart
Sure.
type setup. But yeah.
So
So
I'd like to revise Steven's number to 100 grand. I think I could open a coffee shop for 100 grand.
you could definitely open.
But that's not the trick. I mean, that's not the issue here, because
Right.
ultimately, let's say you have the 100 grand, and let's say we all agree on a plan that this is what it takes, chairs and everything else, right?
Yeah.
What you brought up before was really, really important, which is you don't make profit on day one,
You don't.
right? And so you need all this extra money, which I think is what really ends up crippling a lot of companies, is that they don't budget.
for the after being open expenses.
Yes. Okay.
So coffee in most cases, if you're going to be like mid grade, you're going to pay $9 to $10 per pound, and you're going to need 20 to 30 pounds a week for your bulk coffee, and then maybe 10 or 15 pounds for anything else you're going to do, like if it's going to be higher end specialty coffee.
So it's 40 pounds a week?
About 40 pounds a week.
40 pounds a week. So that's $400 of expense right there.
That's right there.
Okay.
And then baristas are an anomaly in the service industry because they are paid as most people expect employees to be paid, not as most restaurant employees are paid. So restaurant employees here in the United States, for the most part, only have to be paid about $2.17 per
Something.
hour.
Yeah.
And then
Cheap.
Right, and then everything else is tips.
That's right.
But baristas are tips plus regular hourly, and most of the time it's $8.50 to $12 an hour.
Right. Okay.
So your labor expenses are much bigger. And then the other half is figuring out what is your highest foot traffic for hours. So most people make the mistake of saying, the way I'm going to differentiate myself as a coffee shop is I'm going to stay open late.
Okay.
So they usually want to stay open until like 11.
Okay.
You're paying from 7 a.m. to 11, no matter what sales you make. And most coffee shops opening up maybe sell 50 cups of coffee. And that's $2 cups of coffee. So that's raw gross profit. So 50 times 2, you've made $150, but you have paid someone.
50 times 2 is 100.
No, yeah, I'm saying like there's other stuff that you sell. So let's just
Oh,
say
okay, got it.
$150 is
A
what
day.
your entire take is, but you've now paid someone $8.50 an hour from 7 to 11. So your out the door expenses are already like 10x what you've taken in.
Right. Which ultimately is what cripples most companies, is
Because
they lack the runway.
And that will go on for 9 to 8 months as
Right.
you build up, your thing, and then you get, articles written and that kind of stuff. And that's if you're really active going out there and making sure people know about your coffee shop. But most people that operate coffee shops, and this is restaurants in general, most people are focused on the craft and like making the thing happen.
I would
inside
say
the
business
restaurant.
in general.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes we're in that particular boat too, where we're head down working here instead of being active on the outside to network with individuals. And that's one thing we love about the show, is because that is one way that we can interact with everybody else, and I love it.
Right.
But yes, you're right, 100%. So how long does it take in your experience because you got the opportunity of running a shop,
Right.
and then also the opportunity of working with people that were running shops. How long does it take before all of a sudden they can start recovering some of their investment, i.e. they're actually turning a profit?
So,
And they're not running a deficit.
fastest I've seen is 14 months.
Wow, fastest.
Yes.
That's awesome. Okay. So that means they need 14 months of cushion for sure, minimum.
Yes.
Which is about how much cushion? Because of course the business is bringing something in.
So
right.
it all depends on a few factors, right? So depending on your size of your crew, then you'll have to adjust accordingly. So the comfortable amount of people to work in a coffee shop is usually about 9. And let's just say that let's say on average each one of your baristas makes $27,000 a year.
Okay.
Right, which is not great money, but that's about standard barista wages.
Okay.
So you got 27,000 times 9 minimum. Because if, let's say, you have a coffee program manager, or you have a general manager, or someone else that's like doing the bulk of operating the coffee shop, then that person is actually going to be making double, or well, not double, probably like 1.5 times. So let's say $35K. So basically, if you round up to 30, it's 30 basically times 10 is 300K in labor. So 250, 300, we're already at basically $1.5 million. That would be at least your 1 year run time to say, okay, this is how much we need to have just in the bank before we make any money so that we can build up the customers that will then support the rest of this activity. And then at that point, it's just a matter of how long is it going to take from the 14-month, like, kind of everything meeting where expenses and expenses are, the coffee shop is paying for its own expenses, and like you're basically still making no money, but at least you're not in the hole.
Right.
So then after that, you have another, like, basically year of development where you try to add to your actual profits that you're making.
Okay, so that goes into, so now I'm gonna take the conversation in a startup mode.
Yes.
Right, because a lot of people don't have $500,000 of total resources available to them to open a coffee shop.
Well, and actually I want to answer something that Emily brought up in chat. Golden Boy Coffee in Denton, yeah. So Andrew like worked in a few other shops before, and so he knows this process. And so basically, like, he opened the best way that you can open a coffee shop, which is he already knows the industry, he knows the place, he picked out the like a great location. He went to an area that is kind of in a renaissance for coffee in DFWs and Denton.
For so long
yeah.
after fire.
Like
So repeat what she's saying.
There was a fire that happened at one of the most revered, oldest coffee shops in Denton. That was like right on the square, and so like there was a bunch of people there like, oh my God, my coffee shop is gone. So when he opens this new coffee shop, like, he's interacting with all those people and reaching out. So on day one, he has much more customer flow than the rest of the coffee shops that they just open in just to happen. And so that's kind of the pre-business development that you do is also highly important.
Awesome. So actually, I'm going to dissect what you said in a few different ways. One of them is Andrew, is the gentleman's name?
Yeah.
Andrew had already worked in the industry and worked in different coffee shops.
Yes.
Was he involved in the launch of any of these set coffee shops by any chance? Do you remember?
I don't remember, but I know he's definitely highly involved in operations for a bunch of them.
Awesome. So there is so much value in this.
It was a pre-investment, basically.
Exactly. He was investing in himself. Maybe he knew he was going to open a coffee shop. Maybe he didn't. However, what he actually knew, or what he actually ended up doing, was, like Emily just said, running an apprenticeship for himself. And I think that's so valuable, because even from an investable point of view, if Andrew was to approach a team of investors and say, I want to open my own shop, and this is why, and this is how, it's coming from, and I've been doing this for X number of years at these locations. This is what I know at these locations. This is the team that I know. Because what you're doing is that you're lowering the risk for investment.
Yes, yes.
And it's easier for you to get money because they're like, wow, I think there's a lot less risk with him now versus some other person because of all the background, all the experience. So if you don't have experience in a certain area and you don't have the money to bring to the table, I highly suggest this route. And I've been saying this actually for a while after I started working on a mobile app that I ended up tanking. And I think to myself now, and I was going through that process, like, why didn't I work with mobile startups in Dallas or work at one of the design shops, even for free, learn there. And then as I was able to roll forward and decide what I wanted to actually work on, then I had all this background, all this experience mitigating my, lowering my threshold for risk here, or lowering my risk threshold, and being able to move forward with more results, positive results. So that's really, really awesome. So one of the comments we have here on Facebook is that's why network marketing gives people hope. There's a low entry fee.
Yeah, and actually, I just typed a response to that. So network marketing, I love and hate network marketing equally. And
so talk about what you hated first.
So I hate the system that network marketing as it's set up, because it was one of the first industries that really developed this whole the person is the product concept. Because depending on where you are in the network marketing setup, you are either on the positive side of the cash flow, or you're on the negative side of cash flow, recovering to get to a positive side of cash flow. And then there's the middle group, which is the high performers and the super sellers, and those are the people that kind of do keep the train running. The best place to be in network marketing is owning the network marketing company. And the reason being is because all of your metrics for the network marketing company are based on how many distributors you sign up. It is not on how many products get sold. It is not on how many people those other people get into their downline. It's all about how many people pay that entry fee. And that low cost of entry is the attractive piece that says anyone can start their business, you know, but at the same time, starting is all they care about. They really don't care about longevity. And most of the skills necessary to really work in network marketing are the same skills necessary in getting up to speed on any other business and developing the external network and the pre-market, you know, industry knowledge and everything else for different things. So like, I would say the same activities that you use to get successful to open a coffee shop are the same activities that you would use inside of network marketing. You need to talk to lots of other people, mostly not your friends and family, and you need to develop, you know, industry contacts and trust with people so they say, okay, the things that this person is telling me and recommending are the things that I want to trust because I trust this person. And it's all trust. And not understanding that trust paradigm, a lot of people jump into network marketing and they're like, okay, I can do this. And they say, all you gotta do is sign up like 2 people per week. And that seems super easy until you try to sell anything to someone that they don't want. And then you realize that 2 people is an amazing number because like at least there's 2 people that give a shit about what you are trying to sell them and they'll buy from you. And there's only so much your friends and family are gonna put into something before they're like, okay, cool, I don't really need this, right? And like, I'm saying this from, I have been part of 3 network marketing things. Like the first one was because I went with, like, it was attractive and I tried it and I was like, okay, this didn't work. And then the other 2 were because I wanted to figure it out. And then I've seen different friends do stuff and I've seen multiple people do it. And all of it comes down to if you understand sales and network development and market development and you can do decent biz dev, then you will be a great network marketer. And then at that point you just have to pick a set of products that are, you know, that are market ready. And then it doesn't matter. You just plug and play the product and you're good to go. But that training is not baked into those companies. They don't teach people how to do that. They just teach people how to get in.
I think it's really important when you're analyzing an opportunity like this. This is something that Stephen and I have talked about in a different show, which is around strategic thinking and strategic planning, which is where is the incentive for the individual, or in this case, where is the incentive for the network marketing company? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So if you were to step back and actually look at what the business model is, you actually understand that they're making a significant amount of money when you sign up.
Yes.
And in your monthly membership commitment. So they're actually being able to lock in a consistent revenue stream by every time you sign up or somebody else signs up underneath you, right? And so all of a sudden what ends up happening is that they know very specifically that every sign up is, I don't know, $200, $300, $400 of almost profit.
Yeah.
Because that's a sign up fee.
Yeah.
It doesn't take much to incorporate you into the system. Because now everything is digital anyways, right?
And the manufacturing costs are all bulk most of the time.
Oh, 100%.
And most of them are forward ordered.
Right.
So
if you're going to do that, so what ends up happening is people will say, well, this is a very low risk financially, but what they fail to understand is that they also are locking themselves down into a path that is way more difficult than they think, and that low risk and that barrier actually makes it really hard for them to move forward over time because they were taught or they were sold this, hey, $300 to start, you just sign up 1 person a week or 2 people a week. And in actuality, they will lose massive amounts of time and they will definitely lose the money that they put in rather than spending time to develop a $40,000 business. And
but you can, so I think that's a good segue. It was like, how do you develop the $40,000 business using the same exact startup money that you need for the network marketing?
Perfect. What I was going to go to. Go for it.
And also, I love a comment that Nick put, which is businesses should not turn friends into your customers. They should turn customers into your friends.
Businesses shouldn't turn your friends into customers, but your customers into friends.
That's what happens in the coffee shop environment.
That's 100%. I love that.
All these customers that come in for the coffee, and then as you get to know them, they come back because they know you.
So actually, Nick Apromolo is actually originally a customer of Social Smoke.
There you go.
Back, I don't even know how far back, like 2009, 2010, 2011, somewhere there. So much so that Nick has come to my house. He's drove in from Florida, hang out with my family.
Right.
Come to hang out with us at trade shows. I mean, that is exactly what we were building at Social Smoke. And that was we didn't sell, like, I mean, it's literally our idea of how to run a business, in a sense, is literally exactly what Nick wrote there. So that's really awesome.
So with our segue, let's take something that, you know, I guess will probably fall into the, like, haha, that's funny, that's a business. Candle making.
Candle making, go for it.
So candle making, relatively simple. You're going to melt wax, you're going to put it into a form, it's going to make a candle, you're going to sell the candle, okay? This is not, it's not complicated, it's not rocket science, okay? So you would take, let's say if your buy-in for a network marketing group is $350, that's a pretty standard number. You need $45 to buy 5 pounds of wax.
Okay.
You need a pot big enough to melt the wax in its form, and the wax making kit is like another $30 on Amazon.
So you're at $100.
So you're at $100 now. Now at this point, you need to have an Etsy site. You spend $5 on Fiverr for a logo. Maybe you spend another $50 on a copywriter to make all of the sales copy you need, and then you post your candles. So now you take orders, you make candles. In any state in the United States, you can do $10,000 worth of business before you have to incorporate, before you have to set up anything else besides for a DBA, which is your, like, before your Social Security cannot be your identification for a business, $10,000. That is you take $300, you try to sell candles for a year. If you can make 10 grand selling candles, then you can move into whatever stage of business you want next. And that kind of applies to anything that you want to do. If you want to be a writer and you want to sell stories, take $300 worth of investment, which could be like time, like, you know, value your time and say, okay, I'm gonna take 4 hours a day or whatever, and you write the story that you want to write. You set up a Patreon, you start telling people about these stories, you go on the internet and find people talking about writing stories, you get into those circles, you invest the time to talk to those networks and see if someone is interested enough to pledge $5 to support you writing more stories.
So while we're on this idea of being able to break down an idea and give you startup ideas here, if anybody here that's listening has a specific business idea that they've been wanting to get into, if you could drop that in the comments, then that may be something that Stephen and I can work through as an idea on how to get started. So ultimately, you're right. You can start the candle business for less than $300, right? And then it really puts the onus on you to do what? Sell and market.
To sell and market.
And that's such an important part of business.
And consistently producing.
Right.
That is consistently producing your product, consistently selling and marketing your product. Those are the two key things that are going to make anything happen. And you need those same two skills for the network marketing piece.
Right.
But the difference between that and network marketing is you're not charged every month $350 to keep this going. And once you have the candle making set up, you're going to spend another $40 a month or whatever until you have enough orders that your wax doesn't last. That's kind of the thing. So it's that consistent production piece that most people tend to miss, because what you usually see for people that want to start a business and make money fast is desperation. And the desperation makes you make choices that seem short-term expedient and not long-term practical.
Give me an example. Do you have an example? Let me say that a different way.
Paying someone to generate leads for you.
Okay.
Right. In a lot of cases, it's hard to vet someone's efficacy of generating leads. So unless you know 3 people that have used this person's service and have generated X amount of money, and you can talk to them specifically, you don't know if that person's going to work for you. But a lot of people are like, well, I'm not good at sales, so I need someone that can be good at sales that can then pull in these leads for me. And then they spend the money with that person. There's no guarantee for it to work, and then it doesn't work, and they're like, oh man, I'm out X amount of money. Most people do 4 or 5 of those different shortcut actions before they realize that, like, at the end of the day, they still have to just consistently do it and apply the time.
So this actually segues into me selling to you our Kinetic Core program. But I really don't want to. I just want to share with you why we developed the program. The reason being is that what we found out is that creating tactical conversations around what to do in business doesn't get anywhere if the entrepreneur doesn't actually want to, well, let me rephrase it, not want to, but can't. There's something holding them back from implementing it.
Okay.
So in your case, what you're saying is that you get the candles and then you got to go sell and market, and you got to go sell and market, right? So as you're selling and marketing, that sounds easy because it's something that we can just quickly write up for you, right? Like here's how you would sell and market, here's some quick ideas, here's some tips on how to do that on social media. But if the reality is you're shy to be on camera, or you don't like posting about your life or about what you're doing, or you're shy about it, you don't want to post in a public way, so maybe your friends will make fun of you or whatever, then what ends up happening is that you just get stifled. And so what we found is that tactical advice on how to set up a business, there's just tons of it available. I mean, you can go get a book, How to Start a Business for Dummies. I think there is a dummies book for that. And it's great. I mean, this stuff is not brand new, right? If you haven't read things like Running Lean, which is by Ash Marai, or Along the Lean Startup, the whole concept of the Lean Startup is how to start a business as lean as possible and get your idea out there. I read another book that says you can basically start any business in 7 days. Any business. And really what it means is that within 7 days you can have an idea what you would take to the market and start marketing it to see if you're going to have any interest in the idea. And then if the interest is there, then you can turn around and build it. Now, what we know is that when I've worked with different entrepreneurs, what happens is that they're like, well, they bring to the table, and we all bring to the table our history on everything that we're going to do. So if we have a bad relationship with money, or our parents had a bad relationship with money that transferred to us, or any of those kind of things, it will directly impact the business that's happening. These don't show up so much when you're an employee of somewhere, because it's more a job, and yes, of course you're bringing your history to it, but you're also running inside someone else's framework. But when it's up to you to create the framework, the fears and the beliefs and limiting beliefs that you may have, or limiting decisions, will impact your business.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that's why we actually developed the whole Kinetic Core program, which is all around the concept of let's think about these things first, and then we can go to the business idea and the vision, because a lot of times people will have business ideas that are actually pretty limited because they are limited and they perceive themselves to be limited, but really down deep they actually have a way bigger dream.
There's also a very massive trap that I see people fall into when the basics of starting a business aren't exactly like insurmountable hurdles, right? So in some cases, $300 is equal to 45% of someone's take-home pay for the week. That is significant, right? That is at least 10 tanks of gas, which is, that's there's ways of quantifying. It's like how much percentage of this person's life is this money, right? So if you're in most of those situations where $300 is significant, and that's at least 40% of the United States.
Yes.
There was a study about how most people do not have $400 extra for an emergency.
That's right.
And the income range for that is all the way up to $150K a year. There's a lot of people that are in that situation. So for people that are not in that situation, a lot of the trap that I see is that they'll start the process of starting a business, and they'll get trapped in either decision paralysis, where they're always trying to perfect their framework for launching before launching. So, which is, that's anti to actually getting started and running a business, because the only way you get better at running a business is actually doing it. Or they believe that they have to have a specific type of team before they get their business moving. And the key thing that I don't think is preached enough or like talked about enough in most entrepreneurial circles, especially the higher up you get, the more successful the businesses get, is that teams are augmentive to a core action or core individual. They are not what the business is. And that is lost a lot. Like, if, name some type of business.
Name some kind of business. I'm thinking of something that's pretty common. What'd you say?
Convenience store.
Let's be a little bit different one. How about let's pick a service-based business, which I think is something that happens a lot.
Okay, so service-based business, lawyer starting a firm.
Love lawyers starting a firm. Go for it.
So
lawyers, doctors, dentists all fall in a similar boat.
Yeah, all similar boat. There's someone that needs the credentials,
right,
to be able to serve this service. So like the pre-investment is that person going to school, getting the credential, and then working somewhere. Whether they start fresh or they work somewhere and they decide to start their own practice. Okay. Without the doctor, without the lawyer, without the person with that credential, there is no business. So the entire team is augmentative of that individual. But that individual has to practice law or practice dentistry or practice whatever. So if they start their firm and then they go to sleep for the next 2 weeks and then wake up and be like, oh man, we don't have any customers, we don't have anything else, It is not the team's fault that there is no customers. It's the fact that that entrepreneur, that person, did not show up and work at their business and on their business for those 2 weeks. And this firm, and that also matters when you get to the size of like down the street we have Jackson Walker, 750 different attorneys. There are 35 partners.
Wow. Okay.
Maybe there's 40 partners. I don't know. There's a large number of partners, right? Each one of the partners bills at least $1 million a year. But they have to show up every single day and generate those billable hours. So their associates, their attorneys, the IT staff, everybody else is augmented to that one single core activity, which is one lawyer having enough reputation to bill at a certain rate.
Wow. So what you actually brought up was that key activity thing. So real estate was an example that we have here. So this is by my buddy Robert Eccles, which actually used to be my neighbor. I think he lived 4 houses down from me. So cool.
Robert is he builds houses, right?
Robert renovates houses and leases them out, rents them out.
Okay.
Refabs houses. He also is now transitioned into being a real estate agent.
Gotcha.
So he has a background in investing.
Right.
So actually, this one's a really interesting conversation because his personal background is in real estate investing, and then he also has now being a real estate agent.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the key activity? So you just brought up key activity, right? In the case of the attorney.
Right.
So what is the key activity in real estate, being a real estate agent?
Oh, in being a real estate agent, it's identifying properties that want to sell and connecting with those sellers, and then identifying buyers and connecting the sellers to the buyers.
Okay.
So
say that in like fewer words.
In fewer words, it is knowing the network and developing the network. You have to know the market.
Okay, so there you go.
You are managing 2 sides of a market, the buyers and sellers.
That's right. So it's networking.
But your key core activity is augmenting your knowledge. You always need to know more and faster every single day. You need to know who's selling when, and the faster you know who's selling, the faster you can figure out who's buying. Or if you know all the people that are buying, then you find the sellers and you start connecting them quickly.
In a day where MLS is what it is, that is now readily available on everybody's cell phone, do you think
so? You would think so, but there is so much data about real estate that it is starting to become less than humanly possible to go through that efficiently.
Okay.
So then that's where the augmentation comes in. If you're a real estate agent and you are good at developing and finding the buyers and the sellers, what you now need to do to augment that is bring in other agents that work underneath you to continue to augment the process of finding more leads and figuring out more sellers.
I've always said the same exact thing, 100%. Because when I look at what a real estate agent is needed for, is to make a network. It's to find buyers, become, and then find, of course, ultimately sellers, however way they're doing that, is consistently building their network. Meaning, go ahead.
Now, I was going to say, so yes, consistent building network. Let's flip it around. Let's say you're a general contractor and you build houses.
Okay.
The core activity there is site identification.
Yep.
You need to find the property or the property that is available to build houses and other multifamily units or apartment complex or whatever. You need to find the places that are in the right growth patterns, zones, areas of the city that when you spend the money to build that property, you will be able to sell at a specific resale value. And so you are developing internal information. Like you're not so much looking for both sides of the market, you're more looking for a price valuation.
That's right. It's a different
analysis.
Key driver.
Yes.
It's a completely different key driver. So
and developing networks of suppliers and subcontractors so that you can keep your input cost as low as possible for a specific quality level.
100%. So that is a really key. This conversation about what is the key driver of the business is so important. So totally different route if you're a subcontractor or you're a contractor building houses than it is if you're a real estate agent.
Yes.
So real estate agent, the number one thing for me, I think possible, is to continually to develop your network.
Michael Tassoni also joined, and he's been also doing real estate investments. So this is an interesting real estate conversation happening.
Well, actually, yeah, and the conversation going to money in and of itself, the whole concept of money, which I would love to get to maybe today. But
and how Robert said, lead generation is the toughest. It really is, because real estate is such a relationship-based business, especially in the selling side.
So because it's the toughest, that is actually what most people fail at, because it is the toughest. So the person who's, in my opinion, and I've never done real estate agent stuff, so take that with a grain of salt. Take all this with a grain of salt. It's just my perception of, I think, what would happen as I ponder the space and I ponder the strategy that I think needs to happen in that space. It is mastering lead generation and building a network that stays with you. What I have found in the past is that so I'm on the buying market or selling market. I think statistically, people are in the buying market for houses or selling, I think it's every 5 years, 6 years, I'm not sure, so statistically. Emily, can you grab that number? Trying to see like how often people are buying and selling houses?
Well, I mean, if you're supposedly not going to get even a return on your investment after 4 or 5 years, I would imagine people are looking before 5 years at the earliest.
Well, yeah, because if you think about the fastest time to sell, are you talking about as an individual or as a business?
No, I'm just saying, how many times will I buy a house and sell a house as an individual?
Yeah, once every 5 years.
Once every 5 years, right? So meaning that if you created a relationship with me today in 2019, I might not buy a house or I might not become an active client in the residential world till 2024.
Yeah.
So either you can forget about me or realize that cultivating that relationship is for that one moment every 5 years.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, man, I really would love to sell my house. I'm going to remember Robert because I'm consistently interacting with him. And consistent in air quotes, right? It doesn't mean like text a guy every day. But what can you do in a real estate as a real estate agent to stay top of mind and become a valuable resource for a person? So when they're driving around going like, damn it, this house is just too small. I really need to grow. Boom, I got to call Robert. Because the minute that phone call happens, and you're able to send over that agent agreement, you basically lock down the client. Mm-hmm. And so most likely you get the opportunity to represent them on the buy and represent them on the sell if they are selling it. Right. And that's huge. That cultivating that relationship is so important, because I know the agent really ultimately, 2% ultimately the price of a house, but if a house is $300,000, that's a $6,000 payday for maintaining that relationship through occasional text, emails, and so forth. And I think that's really the key driver for the real estate agent world. And yes, that is the hardest part. And that's why most people don't do that. And what they actually end up doing is just, I don't know. They'll message you once you put up here's me and my U-Haul. Hey, do you need help? Like that doesn't work anymore. I want to do this exotic car rental.
Yeah, go for that one.
So Tyler, you're going to buy an exotic car. I'm going to set up the business. I'll test out your car for a while, and then I'll let you know how it goes. No, I think to do an exotic car rental.
So I mean,
what do you? I'm gonna take a ticket. Try whack at it, right? Would be imagining what is the car that people are actually hunting down right now. What are the kinds of cars that people are going to be renting on average in that space, and then looking at the cash flow, because in here it's about cash flow between the amount of money that you're paying out for obviously the car and insurance on the car, and then what is the amount of money that you're bringing in from a rental, and how are you mitigating maintenance on that said vehicle. So these things are really, really valuable. So
I would say
leasing a Lamborghini is going to cost $2,000, $2,500 a month. Probably. Yeah.
But actually, I wouldn't even say that is. I would say all that is the after, right? The actual customer development for exotic car rental is more based around identifying the reasons why someone would rent an exotic car, and then what are the key characteristics about that persona that cause that person to rent that car versus buy that car. Because you only rent an exotic car when either you don't care about owning it or you cannot afford to own it. And most of the people that buy exotic cars that are not in a car specific business, they don't flip cars, right? There's a lot of exotic cars that you can buy, drive for about 5,000 miles, do some work to it, and then flip it for a better price. But for the people that are not in that space, they're buying the car as a status symbol or for show or for whatever, and they have the money to do so. So what's the cross section of the people that can't afford to buy it, but also want to have it, and then where do they cluster? Because a lot of it is all personality. So if they know that you're renting these exotic cars, then you need an army of advocates that are going to go out and say, look, I get to look this way because I use this car rental, I have this relationship, and then they tell other people, they bring in more customers.
Okay, so actually let's take one more step back. Yeah. So we actually tackled two different parts.
Right.
Of what's ultimately, we call it Kinetic Canvas. We have a different version of what's called the lean canvas or business canvas. So if you're wanting to Google terms, outside of what we do, you can grab those, and that's like a one-page document that has, I think, 9 boxes, and has you go through and answer who's the customer segment. In this case, you know, Stephen was very specific to define what is the customer. It's a customer who would love to be in an exotic car but doesn't want to buy one, and either for whatever reasons, right. and where are they located and what are they doing and so forth. So that's a customer development. And then there's the key activity, the money aspect of it, yeah. right? So what is the cost of starting that business? So if you're going to be renting out a $200,000 Lambo, your startup costs are $200,000?
I mean, so you mentioned insurance. So there's insurance, there's the car, and then there's going to be some relationship on maintenance.
Right, but in this particular case, cars are readily purchased on lease terms.
Yeah.
So if you're not walking up, I mean, if you can walk up and pay $200,000 for a Lambo, you can get it on a lease term. So your actually startup cost is significantly less than the $200,000 for the car.
But lease would be probably not the way to go in this case for the rental, because most lease agreements do not allow you to then use that car for other activities outside of you personally using it.
Yeah, they have non-commercial.
Yeah. So like if you're leasing a car and then renting it out, that's a violation of lease, and then they'll come repossess it. If you buy it, then you have more flexibility on that.
Okay, well, I'm sorry. I meant to say monthly payments are achievable in the purchase of it. You don't have to do $200,000.
Right.
It's the same thing with a rental. It's actually the same concept money-wise as it comes to renting out a house.
Yes.
So you have so much money that you need to commit upfront, and then you have the cash flow that happens afterward. And so that cash flow, let's say that's $2,000 a month and all in $3,000 a month. But most of these exotic car rentals are $500 to $1,000 a day.
Yes, because
right. So you really are looking to rent it out minimum of 4 to 5 days a month to break even. Mm-hmm. And what is actually happening, if it does break even, is that you're accruing equity inside the vehicle that on some of these cars, these exotic cars actually raise in value. It's not like your standard Toyota Corolla. Some of these Lambos and stuff will actually raise in value over time depending on the car. So again, it goes back to the same thing as looking at the business model, looking at a lean canvas document, or going through our Kinetic Core program and developing out a canvas that takes into consideration the things like the customer segments, the customer relationships. How are you maintaining that? How are you attracting that? And going through this exercise is so valuable. And I will tell you another thing, Tyler, and it's a great idea. If you are going to ever do that, go work at a shop. Go work at a place that's renting out these cars. Go get paid $8 an hour and wear the logo t-shirt, polo, and just work there, because that's not a downgrade in your life. That is a massive, massive learning potential that you get to learn how the business works on somebody else in somebody else's business. And so when you actually go out, you know, like for example, man, you know, this company was getting so many rentals through wedding planners, because what was happening is that once people get married, they want to, I don't know, right? They want to go and they want to go get a Lambo and drive around town for 2 days. And so that's really where that's like a biz dev segment that you can launch even before you actually go get the car and start building relationships with those people. So that when you start your business, bam. So that is like so important. And I think what happens, people are so willing to go to college. They're willing to get in debt, like crazy amounts of money to go to college. But this concept of working for a company like this or working for free somewhere is just absolutely insulting to so many people. And I think it shouldn't be. And I think you should take advantage of take those opportunities to learn from somebody else's business. That is not, I don't think this is a really useful way people are looking at unpaid internships.
Right, but the caveat to unpaid internships.
I'm just saying, if you have a learning opportunity in a space you don't know about, and you don't have something better, take the information, take the knowledge, because then you can come to somebody else and say, I know how to do blank, here's my portfolio, here's my experience. However way you do that, whether it's paid, unpaid, watching YouTube videos, do whatever you can to acquire that knowledge ahead of time rather than learning it on your own. because it is damn expensive.
I mean, another route for the exotic car rental would be if you have the ability to have access to that type of car. Find people that need the visual. They can make an agreement with you, the person, that you, the person, show up with the car, and you provide that as a service, which at that point won't violate your lease agreement because you're just driving your car to a site and someone's taking a picture of it.
There's so many different ways you could do that. Yeah, these are all really awesome ways.
Yeah.
But, you know, maybe going to a guy who already has the car, and you're like, hey, if I bring you clients, can I get 20% of the sale?
Right.
No upfront cost. 20% is pure profit at that point.
Right.
I mean, you know,
there's just a lot of ways.
there's so many different ways to get into it that if you really, really want to get a business started, it might, on day one, might not be what your bigger vision is, but it gets you on the path to getting that. And if we can do our job right, at least I'm talking about, you know, inside the Kinetic Experience and what we do with entrepreneurs, is if we could do our job right, it mitigates your risk when you go to launch these things and as you go to move forward, so that you're not overspending money in you know, whatever idea that you're working on, and hopefully start to put money in when things are going successful for you, and hopefully, you know, speeding up the flow of money to you. Is that fair?
Right.
So that's it. Thank you, Stephen. We're hitting our 1 hour mark. Thank you for the individuals that tuned in today. Brandy, Robert, Nick, Ace, our boy Ace on Twitch. Let me see. I want to make sure I call out everybody who was here. Of course, Mr. Stephen, Emily, for all your comments. Thank you so much. Check us out. Our website is thekineticexperience.com. We post this on Twitch. We actually have a Discord channel now, so we're going to drop the link here into the comments. So that way, if you guys want to continue the conversation or just chat with us, that's available to you. Discord's really cool. It's a really awesome platform. It's used primarily by the gaming community, if I'm not mistaken, as they interact with Twitch a lot. But hey, it's an amazing platform that we're also using for communicating our form of game and our form of having fun, which is doing business and setting businesses up. So yeah, check us out. I'm Abe Nadimi.
And I'm Stephen Ellis.
And we're signing off.